So everybody wants leads, and you should. It's the secret to unlimited growth and revenue and profit. And yet I've been doing this for decades, and I'm telling you that 95% of people will fail. And it's not because of the leads. I recently did well over $1 billion in sales in a particular industry with 8 different participants. And the close rates on the exact same leads range from less than 1% for about half of the participants, all the way up to a second place of 3.5% close rate, and first place 7.5%, and towards the end we had them all the way up to 8.2, same leads. And somebody's making 8 times the results off the same leads because they were willing to work with us. This is a partnership. We do not sell leads. We do not generate leads for people. We partner with them to create together the highest possible return on ad spend, or the lowest possible cost of acquisition. You see, our responsibility is to minimize the cost of a valid lead. This is a real lead. It's an actual person that needs the thing, and they have the money, but honestly, they almost always have the money if it makes sense to them. So we minimize the cost of a valid lead. You have to maximize the conversion rate of those leads into sales. So before we engage with anybody, this is the bar, the minimum standard, what we need from a partner to know that we're going to succeed together. So, number 1, availability. You need to be available to work leads, because leads don't come in during normal business hours. People are always like, well, I can't afford to staff 3 shifts a day and work 24 hours a day. Look, a salesperson, on average, they work 2.3 hours a day, by the way, statistically speaking. If they could work 30 hours a week, they'd be insanely successful, but they got to work when the work is there. And most leads tend to come in during evening hours, early morning, over the weekends. People aren't watching ads and replying to them during normal business hours. So you need to make sure that you have processes in place to make sure that all leads are handled immediately, pretty much no matter when they come in. If it's after 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or before 10 p.m. Pacific Time, yep, you need to be replying to it right then. So, no, I don't want people sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. I want the leads hitting their cell phone. I want all rings taking place. Whatever has to happen in order to make sure that every lead is responded to immediately. And that brings us to commitment number 2, speed to lead. Statistically, a lead that's responded to within the first minute is 391%, about 4 times, more likely to convert than one that takes more than a minute. And by the way, statistically, 27% of leads are never responded to at all. Why do people even bother? It just freaks me out. You have to reply immediately. Now, we have processes in place to make this more likely and to automate some of it, but your commitment in this is that you will track and monitor the speed to lead, the average time to first connection attempt, and that has to stay below 5 minutes. Somebody's going to claim a lead, and a text is going to go out and say, hey, it's me. I just got your information. I'm wrapping something up. I'll call you back in a couple minutes from the same number. And that buys you a couple minutes, but somebody has to be replying within 5 minutes at the outside, and it needs to be tracked. Every salesperson should know what their average speed to lead is, how many times they fail to make it within the 5 minutes. And people, you'll start to see it. The people that have my average speed to lead is 58 seconds. Yeah, how come that person does twice as much business as the person who averages 6 minutes? And you'll see it. If you don't track it, it won't change. Okay, number 3, contact attempt SOPs. What are your standard operating? Well, I call them. And what happens when they don't answer? Because nobody answers the phone anymore. I leave a message, right? Nope. Here's what works best. And we require this. You have to be committed that a contact attempt, by definition, is a double dial, meaning I call and I hit voicemail, I don't leave one. I hang up and I call right back, because when the same number calls back, it conveys urgency, and be amazed how much that one little thing will do. But when that one hits voicemail, now you're going to text them. And we have countless texts and sample texts and can help you with what those texts are, but the text needs to give them a reason to pick up the call. So dial, text, hey, it's Bill, I just got your information, I was trying you back, I figure I caught you in the middle of something, or you're like me and don't respond to numbers you don't recognize. I'll try you back in a couple minutes from the same number. And then a double dial, text, double dial. That's the definition of a contact attempt. It always happens that way every single time. It needs to be tracked, and those need to happen daily for at least 2 weeks, or until you hit the minimum connection rate of about 75%, because connection rate is the single biggest killer of sales activities on leads. The single biggest killer is a low connection rate, because most professional sales organizations fail to get past 40%. 60% is a bare minimum to be moderately successful, but if you're good, it's going to be 75% plus. You need to be able to connect with 75%, 80% of your leads, and you have to track this, and we need to be able to see that, yeah, the speed to lead is there, and the connection attempts are there, and they're happening daily, and they're always double dial, text, double dial. That's a minimum. And by the way, I love it when people do that, say 3 times for the first 3 days and twice a day for the next 7. And the more connection attempts, the better. It increases your ROI. It increases a salesperson's income. We got a lot of processes to help make that more successful and not have them spend their time dialing, but you got to commit. Next, establishing trusted connections. People want to go in and close somebody. I don't want to sell. I want to take orders. And so I go and I ask for the sale, and they say no, and I'm done. No. You can't tell somebody they should do something and expect them to do it. They don't know you. They don't trust you. People, if they trust you, yeah, I trust you, and you say, I want you to do this because it's good for you, this will work for you, this will help you, whatever. Well, if I trust you, I'm going to go, okay, and I'm going to do it. Well, how do you establish trust? And this one's simple. It takes time and getting to know your prospect. And we require that you're willing to, salespeople are all committed to spending 30 to 45 minutes on the phone or on Zoom or whatever, talking with every valid prospect. Look, if it's not a real valid lead, you're going to hop after those first couple screening questions. Otherwise, you need to be committed to spend that 30 plus, 45 plus minutes talking with them. And I don't mean talking at them. We want to track, eventually we'll help you get to where you can track how much time I'm talking and how much time the prospect is talking, because they need to be talking more than half the time. You're there to learn about their problem, their need, what else they've tried, what they're skeptical about, what their fears are, what it would mean if this actually worked for them, and what the benefits would be to them if this actually worked for them. The more time they spend talking about their problem and their solution, the more likely they are to close, and the more they'll like you, because people like you in direct proportion to how much time you spend listening to them, to how much time they spend talking. They like you in proportion to how much you know about them. And by the way, this whole time, you better be taking notes, because it's one of the things I like to track is how total word count for notes taken. I want notes on every one of your problems, on what you talk about, on the things. When I get on the next call with you, I want to be able to go, hey, I'm curious, how'd the soccer game go that you were heading out to the other day? Da, da, da. Oh, wow, that's, so let's talk, and the more you know about them, the more likely they are to trust you. And if they trust you, they'll do business with you, but you have to establish connection first. Probably the most common mistake I see. People just go in, make one close attempt, move on, bad lead. Nope. They have a need. They have a need. If you can establish that they have a need, you need to make a connection. So now I've established a connection. What's next? Well, 5 close minimum. Do you know that just less than 20% of all closes that occur on the first attempt? And yet most people make one attempt. So what's the price? Oh, it's $1,000. Oh, I can't afford it. Thanks anyway. Bye. And I give up. I ask them if they want it. And they're like, no, I don't know. I got to think about it. Nope. No. Look, the single biggest difference, the single activity that can be tracked that differentiates the top producers from the average producers is the number of closes. Top producers will close and close and close and close and close. And it doesn't mean you be really pushy. And again, we'll get into how and can help you if you can't figure this out on your own. But how do I create continuations? How do I use a AAA closing framework? How do I not come off pushy? How do I change it up so that I'm not trying to address an objection and close? I'm giving them new information upon which to make a new decision, but this needs to be tracked. I want to record all calls at a minimum, and you should be spot checking them if you haven't set up some AI system to tell you how many closing attempts were made and what they're doing to try and create those additional attempts. Because again, just closing and closing and closing is, yeah, can I have the sale? Yeah, I know, but can I have the sale? No. You need to make sure that there are at least 5 close attempts. It needs to be a hard, fast rule, which brings us to the next commitment we need: training. People want to hire a salesperson, turn them loose, and then wait for the magic to happen. No. True sales professionals, A players, people who love their craft, will close between 10 and 100 times as much business as a good salesperson. You don't need a good salesperson. You don't need somebody who needs a job so they're doing sales. You need somebody who loves their craft, who loves selling, who's constantly sharpening the sword and getting better. And we have lots of trainings that you can utilize, and books and podcasts. And I can tell you that probably the most successful sales organization I know is Tommy Mello at A1 Garage Door. Shout out to you, Tommy. And they're selling garage doors. And they have daily sales training. They have the most impressive sales training program I've ever seen in my life for garage doors. Yep. And trust me, nobody seeing this will ever be as successful as Tommy Mello or have the net worth. And it's with garage doors. And I was around when it started and I watched the whole thing. Unbelievable. Training. Better. That's got to be part of every organization. Next, tracking and reporting. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. This is probably the single greatest driver of behavior. Well, no, it is. Short feedback loops are the single greatest driver of behavior. If every time I take an action, I get an electric shock, I'm going to stop taking that action because it's immediate feedback loops. Well, if your feedback loop is their paycheck, it's not going to change their behavior. If at the end of the day, I don't know, how'd you do today? Oh, I feel like I did. No, my score today was an 82. I did. They need to know day by day, how moment by moment, are they succeeding or failing? They need to know their exact next activity. It's tracking. So you've got to commit to track the basic metrics, and we want you to commit also to push it beyond the basics. Look, the basics are things like what's your connection rate? What's your speed to lead? What's your overall close rate? But if you're really going to extract all the money you can from this and be the best in your industry, you need to track not just your speed to lead, but your average connection attempts on uncontacted lost leads. Yep, every lead that never got contacted. I want to know how many times they were contacted. Daily contact attempts by sales, but how many times did you attempt to contact an uncontacted lead today? Overall connection rate, average call duration, excluding bad leads. So if I mark it as nope, this was a bad lead, a non-lead. And by the way, that has to be spot checked as well, because they'll just call them all bad leads. No, that was a valid lead. If it's a valid lead, if I'm selling to chiropractors, that's a lead. If I'm selling to somebody back pain treatment and they have back pain, that's a lead. Well, yeah, but they're broke, or yeah, but they barely spoke the. No, sorry. That's a lead. Only a bad phone number, or I don't know how you got my number, or I don't even have a driver's license, so why would I buy a car? That's a bad lead. Everybody needs to track how many bad leads, because we don't judge them on the bad leads. But when everybody has a 20% bad lead ratio and Bob has a 39% bad lead ratio, Bob's full of crap. You have to track that. And we need to know the bad lead ratio, because we're working to always lower that ratio. But we need real, accurate data on that. Suspect to prospect conversion percentage. Everybody always just wants to check close rate, but that gets you to try and make the one call close, and you're losing 75% of your sales if you're trying to do that. No, you have to make a connection, a prospect. I got them to engage with me, establish a level of trust. A prospect is just somebody who expects future interaction and has a positive expectation for that. Positive expectation for future interaction, not, oh great, I'll be sure and not answer the call. No. You need to establish a connection and a continuation. Now I've got somebody that is going to buy someday. That's the goal. Prospect. Then prospects turn into customers at some point. And later we'll get into, in trainings, how to turn customers into clients. Yep, he's my guy. I use him for all this. And champions, oh yeah, I've referred 10 people to him. He's the best. But out of the gate, suspect, prospect, customer. That's where we're going to focus. How many of your leads are you able to establish a connection with that will include an ongoing connection? And then prospect to customer conversion. And together these add up to your overall close rate. How many of my valid leads did I close? Aged closings tracked by time elapsed to a close, meaning how many closed in week 1, in week 2, in week 3 and 4, in month 2, in month 3, or month 3 to 6, in month 6 plus. And this is critical, because I can tell you that in the mortgage industry, we found that even after somebody said, hey, I think I need a mortgage, the closings that eventually occurred from those leads, only 40% occurred in the first 90 days. 48% occurred the second 90 days, and 12% took more than 6 months. Overall, that added up to increased closings from below 2% to over 8%. People aren't ready to pull the trigger right now. You got to make a connection and then establish and maintain that connection and get closer to them so that you intersect with that moment in time when they're ready to actually move forward. So I want you to track on closings, what's the average age of a closing? Because if I have a reasonable close rate, but they all occur in week 1, I'm not continuing to work them. I'm leaving so much money on the table. Any organization that's worth their salt in sales is going to have X% in week 1, in week 2, in week 3, 4, in month 2, in month 3 to 6, in month, and they should be coming and coming and coming. And in some industries, it should be tracked out for a couple of years, because it sometimes takes a couple of years before somebody's ready to move ahead. But the beauty is a salesperson will end up with this massive database that's just throwing off business all the time. They don't even need new leads. It's just coming from their relationships. He or she with the most friends wins. So, contact attempts on age prospects. I know that's more advanced, but I want to know, is somebody staying in touch with those? Are they blah, 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 blah? Because if their close rate's there, I don't really need to track this, but I want to see that they're sending emails, they're staying in touch. It might just be something about, hey, did you see what the Sox did last night? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Because I've got notes and I know that they're Red Sox fanatics. That's the kind of stuff that takes it to a whole nother plane. Inbound calls from prospects. I love tracking this one because it's pretty simple. When you establish connections, people start calling you. They start having questions. And it doesn't have to be a call. It can be an email or a text. But inbound communications, if I'm doing my job right, people are texting me, emailing me, and calling me. And if I don't have inbound stuff, I'm not making connections. Probably need to find somebody else. And I need to be honest, sales is not my career. It's the necessary evil to pay my mortgage. Average word count of client notes on prospects. If somebody's a prospect, yep, this was a valid lead, they're a prospect, they're ongoing, they're a possible close someday, I want to know what the word count is. And mind you, I want to know a lot more than that. But at a minimum, are they taking notes? You've got to be able to refer to those notes, to bring things up, to talk about their fears, their concerns, their past experiences, their goals, their objectives, what's important to them. Hell, I want to know what their hobbies are, their interests, their birth date, their wife's name, their kids' names, about the new rescue dog they just got. That's the kind of stuff that goes in notes. The more notes, the higher the probability of close. Be sure and watch the training on this, or go read Swim with the Shark Without Being Eaten Alive. It'll freak you out. The better you know them, the better you know them, the better they know you, the more likely they're going to do business with you. And last, referrals from prospects. I want to know how many referrals they're getting. And later we can get into a lot of extra prospects, but the commitment we need from you is that you will track the minimum metrics and can track and report on, publish and report, and continuously work to improve that reporting. If you're not willing to track and report, because I got to tell you, when you have everything up on a leaderboard and I can see that Bob's making twice as much money as me, and he's making twice as many contact attempts as me, and he has a dramatically faster speed to lead than me, and oh my God, look at, I'm sorry, you're just going to see the metrics lead to the revenue, and everybody else will see it, and people hate being in the bottom half or the whatever, and I want to be number one, or one of the fighting for number one. And if you don't have animals that want to be at the top, and it's all those metrics, and by the way, not for right now, this is a training, but we'll get into how to tweak compensation and bonus plans to dramatically drive the focus on those metrics, and how it will increase your ROI and your ROAS. So, yeah, you have to commit to track minimum metrics, publish them, share them, report on them. We have to see them. If we can't see that your connection rate, your close rate, your contact attempts are at least adequate, we don't want to work with you because it's a waste. If you're getting leads and I left them 2 messages, go find a new career, please. And last, we need you to commit to stay in your lane. Everybody wants to be an ad executive. Everybody wants to be an advertiser or a marketer, and we want all your feedback. We really love your feedback on what the leads are saying, or what you think might work, or what you find is most relevant, or what resonates the best with the client. But what we don't need to do is constantly be changing things and judging things. Everything today is based on AI or machine learning and algorithms, and it takes a lot of time to teach them. Until I've gotten through the first 50 sales, the algorithm doesn't even know who's likely to buy. And we always have people coming back and going, oh, my lead cost is. And I just went through that with somebody today. Campaign 1, which had lots of ads and tests, was $247 a lead. Campaign 2, it was down to $128. And by the third round of campaigns, it was down to $38 a lead. And it cost several $1,000s, or probably closer to $10,000. By the time we got down there, we're good. And we know what we're doing. And we'll drive the cost down more than you ever could. And by the way, also had a campaign last month where we came out of the gate at $15 a lead. And then the CEO said, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this, and we paid for this professional video, and could you do this? And he managed to jack the lead cost up to about $150. And we slowly whittled it away back down to 100, but he wanted his creative and his stuff. Yeah, no tail wagging the dog. So the commitment we need from you is that you're in this for the long haul. You'll work with us, but we're as good as it gets when it comes to lowering the cost of a valid lead. you're going to make way more money by focusing on how well you do at closing those leads. That's the minimums. Are you in? You out.